General Motors said it is recalling 780,000 Chevys and Pontiacs. The engines can shut off without warning, and 6 people have died in 22 crashes linked to the problem.
Sometimes one car can change everything, and not always for the better. Throughout automotive history, entire brands have collapsed because of a single misstep. A poorly designed model, a bad business decision, or a failure to adapt to changing times can turn a respected automaker into a memory. From Detroit giants to European innovators, these cars didn't just fail in sales, they symbolized everything that went wrong with their companies. They were supposed to save their brands, but instead became the final nail in the coffin. Today, we're looking back at 12 cars that ended entire brands forever. Some were misunderstood visions, others were doomed from the start, and a few were simply too far ahead or behind their time. Each one tells a cautionary tale about ambition, arrogance, and the unforgiving nature of the car market. Let's count them down. Number 12. Pontiac Aztek, the car that broke GM's pride. When Pontiac unveiled the Aztek in 2000, they believed they were launching the future of SUVs. Instead, they created one of the most infamous automotive flops in history. The Aztek's design was supposed to be bold, futuristic, and adventurous. But to most people, it looked like a science project gone wrong. Its strange proportions, awkward front fascia, and clumsy rear made it an instant punchline. Even though it had some practical features, a built-in cooler, optional tent package, and decent performance, the public never forgave its looks. The Aztek became a symbol of everything wrong with General Motors at the time. Too many committees, no clear vision, and a total disconnect from buyers. Sales were disastrous, and despite later gaining cult status thanks to Breaking Bad, it couldn't save Pontiac. By 2010, GM pulled the plug on the entire brand, and the Aztek's shadow loomed over its grave. Number 11. Saab 9-5. The end of Swedish individualism. Saab had always been different. Quirky design, aircraft-inspired interiors, and turbocharged innovation made it a favorite among loyalists. But by the mid-2000s, Saab's identity was fading under GM ownership. When the second-generation 9-5 finally arrived in 2010, it was supposed to be Saab's revival. Instead, it became its final chapter. The 9-5 looked sleek, handled well, and kept Saab's spirit alive. But it came far too late. GM's bankruptcy and shifting priorities meant there was no marketing, no dealer support, and no confidence left in the brand. Just months after the new 9-5 hit showrooms, Saab was sold to Spyker, then plunged into financial chaos. By 2012, Saab was gone. The 9-5 wasn't a bad car. It was simply the last gasp of a company that had been suffocated by corporate control. It proved that passion alone can't survive when the money runs out. Number 10. Plymouth Prowler, a hot rod that cooled a brand. Plymouth, one of America's oldest automakers, tried to reinvent itself in the 1990s. The idea? A wild, retro-inspired hot rod called the Prowler. It was daring, eye-catching, and unlike anything else on the road. With its exposed front wheels and sleek aluminum body, the Prowler looked like a concept car that somehow made it to production. But beneath the flashy design was a problem. It wasn't a true hot rod. The Prowler had a 3.5-liter V6, not a big V8, and was only available with an automatic transmission. Enthusiasts loved the look, but hated the lack of muscle. Sales were lukewarm, and Plymouth had nothing else exciting to offer. The Prowler's failure to reignite public interest became symbolic of the brand's confusion. By 2001, Chrysler ended Plymouth altogether, quietly rebadging the Prowler as a Chrysler model. Before it, too, vanished. Number 9. Mercury Milan, the sedan that faded into silence. Mercury was once a stylish step up from Ford, appealing to drivers who wanted a little more flair without luxury prices. But by the 2000s, nobody really knew what Mercury stood for anymore. Its cars were rebadged Fords with slightly different grilles, and the brand had lost its identity. The Milan was the last attempt to change that. Introduced in 2006, it was meant to modernize Mercury with clean lines, solid engineering, and reasonable pricing. But it blended in so much that it became invisible. The Milan wasn't bad, it was just forgettable. As SUVs began dominating the market, sedans like the Milan quickly lost relevance. Ford saw no reason to keep Mercury alive when its main brand was stronger. In 2010, Ford officially ended Mercury's 70-year run. The Milan rolled quietly off production lines, marking the end of a brand that once stood for excitement and aspiration. Number 8. Oldsmobile Alero, America's oldest brand, meets its end. Oldsmobile had been around since 1897, older than Ford, Chevrolet, or Cadillac. But by the late 1990s, GM didn't know what to do with it. The Alero was supposed to save Oldsmobile, sleek styling, sporty appeal, and a new direction for younger buyers. Unfortunately, it was too little, too late. The Alero shared too many parts with other GM models, and while it looked decent, it didn't stand out. The car failed to deliver the excitement needed to revive a fading nameplate. Worse, reliability issues and interior quality complaints pushed buyers toward imports. By 2004, after 107 years, Oldsmobile shut down completely. The Alero became the brand's final model, a car that symbolized GM's inability to modernize its legacy divisions. It wasn't a disaster, just a quiet failure. But sometimes silence is more fatal than scandal. Number 7. Hummer H3, the gas guzzler that couldn't survive reality. At first, Hummer was a cultural icon. The H1 was a military beast for the road. The H2 was a symbol of success, and the H3 tried to make that power more affordable. But by 2008, the world had changed. Gas prices were soaring, environmental awareness was rising, and the economy was collapsing. The H3 arrived at the worst possible time. Smaller than its predecessors, but still inefficient, it offered none of the rugged prestige buyers expected. Instead, it felt like a watered-down version of the original, expensive to fuel, underpowered, and out of touch with reality. Public opinion turned harsh. The Hummer name became shorthand for wastefulness, and sales plummeted. By 2010, GM killed the brand. The H3 was the last to roll off the line, a relic of an era when bigger was better, until it wasn't. Ironically, the name has returned decades later, reborn as an electric truck. Number 6. Saturn Aura, the corporate experiment gone wrong. Saturn began in 1985 as GM's bold experiment, a different kind of car company meant to compete with Japanese brands through innovation and customer loyalty. For years, it worked. Owners loved Saturn's honest sales approach and unique community culture. But GM couldn't sustain it. By the mid-2000s, Saturn had lost its independence, its identity, and its charm. The Aura was introduced in 2006 to save the brand. A sleek, European-inspired sedan, with decent performance and upscale feel. Critics liked it, but buyers didn't show up. GM's bankruptcy in 2009 sealed Saturn's fate. The Aura couldn't overcome years of corporate neglect, and the brand was shut down soon after. The Aura couldn't overcome years of corporate neglect, and the brand was shut down soon after. The Aura stands as the perfect metaphor for Saturn itself, promising, well-intentioned, but ultimately forgotten in the chaos of a giant corporation's mismanagement. Number 5. DeLorean DMC-12, the dream that destroyed its maker. Few cars are as legendary or as tragic as the DeLorean DMC-12. John DeLorean wanted to revolutionize the auto industry with a futuristic stainless steel sports car. It looked incredible. Gull-wing doors, exotic styling, and movie star presence long before Back to the Future made it iconic. But beneath the style was trouble. The DMC-12 was underpowered, expensive, and poorly built. The company's finances crumbled under the weight of production costs and delays. In desperation, John DeLorean became embroiled in a high-profile drug trafficking scandal, though he was later acquitted. By 1982, the DeLorean Motor Company collapsed after building fewer than 9,000 cars. The DMC-12 became a cult classic, but its failure ended one of the boldest independent ventures in automotive history. It's proof that vision and charisma aren't enough without reliable engineering and sound business sense. Number 4. Studebaker Lark, the last stand of an innovator. Studebaker was a pioneer in American automotive history, dating back to the days of horse-drawn wagons. By the late 1950s, the company was struggling to compete with Detroit's Big Three. The Lark, launched in 1959, was designed to save Studebaker by entering the compact car segment early. At first, it worked. The Lark sold well, offering solid value and fresh design. But when Ford, Chevrolet, and Chrysler caught up with their own compacts, Studebaker's advantage vanished. Without deep pockets or modern factories, they couldn't compete on price or marketing. As the 1960s rolled on, quality issues and outdated styling dragged the Lark and Studebaker down. The final Studebaker rolled off the line in 1966. The Lark wasn't a disaster, but it couldn't carry the weight of an entire company. Sometimes, even a good car can't save a brand from fading into history. Number 3. Tucker 48, the car that was too good for its time. Preston Tucker's dream was to build the most advanced car in the world. The Tucker 48 delivered on that vision. Rear engine layout, safety features decades ahead of their time, and stunning design. But innovation can be dangerous when it threatens the status quo. Detroit's big automakers and political forces moved quickly to shut Tucker down. Investigations, lawsuits, and rumors of fraud scared off investors, even though Tucker was never convicted of wrongdoing. Only 51 cars were ever built before the company folded in 1949. The Tucker 48 didn't fail because it was bad. It failed because it was too revolutionary. It ended the brand before it could even begin. Today, those surviving cars are priceless reminders of what happens when creativity collides with corporate power. Tucker's downfall remains one of the great what-ifs in automotive history. Number 2. A MC Pacer, the bubble that burst. American Motors Corporation was the underdog of Detroit, innovative, scrappy, and always fighting bigger rivals. The Pacer, launched in 1975, was AMC's attempt to redefine the compact car with futuristic design and wide interiors. At first glance, It looked unlike anything else, a space-age car for a new era. But its unique shape came with heavy weight, poor aerodynamics, and disappointing fuel economy. Just as gas prices skyrocketed, AMC's futuristic car was ironically inefficient. The Pacer quickly became a joke in pop culture, mocked for its bubble-like looks. Sales tanked, and AMC's financial problems deepened. By the early 1980s, Chrysler bought out what was left of the company. The Pacer didn't single-handedly kill AMC, but it symbolized the creative risks that failed to pay off. It remains a fascinating piece of automotive history, a weird, lovable disaster. Number 1. Edsel, Ford's billion-dollar mistake. No story of brand failure is complete without the Edsel. Ford invested over $250 million in the late 1950s, a staggering sum at the time, hoping to create a new mid-level division between Ford and Mercury. The result was the Edsel, launched with massive hype and promise. But when the car arrived in 1957, buyers were confused. Its design was awkward, the pricing was wrong, and the timing was terrible. America was slipping into a recession. Worse, the name itself became a punchline. Within 3 years, Ford pulled the plug, losing hundreds of millions. The Edsel became synonymous with corporate arrogance and marketing failure. It didn't just fail, it embarrassed one of the biggest automakers in the world. The Edsel's collapse taught every carmaker a lesson that still holds true. You can't force a brand to exist. It has to earn its place on the road and in people's hearts. In the end, cars don't just represent metal and machinery. They represent dreams, risks, and the identity of entire companies. The 12 cars on this list didn't just fail at the dealership, they ended eras. From the Aztek's design disaster to the Edsel's marketing meltdown, each one changed the course of automotive history. Some were victims of bad timing, others of poor leadership, and a few simply dared too much. But their legacies live on, not as reminders of shame, but as lessons in ambition. The next time you see a concept car or a bold new idea, remember, innovation always comes with risk. Sometimes it builds empires, and sometimes it buries them. And for these brands, one car was all it took to drive off the edge forever.